welcome back to the Real Estate Reserve podcast. I'm Jason Balin from Hard Money Bankers. Ian Horowitz from Equity Warehouse. Hope everybody is having a great day. Definitely looking forward to our guest, Tom Zeeb, that we're going to bring up and introduce in a second. If this is your first time tuning in, welcome. Promise we'll keep this entertaining and also educational. And if you're a return viewer, follower, listener, watcher, thanks again for all the support. Couldn't do it without you. As you know, we try to bring in guests that are doing real estate transactions or involved in the real estate community. So definitely looking forward to this one, Ian.
Yeah, no, I'm definitely excited. I'm probably more excited that he is in Florida and we're not, and it's about to be spring training and it's not 18 degrees. But with that being said, the best compliment we can give him, besides being jealous of his weather, I'm messing up words all day today, is sharing the show. We don't care about the likes or subscribes. If you get any value out of this, the best compliment we can give our guests is by sharing the show. And since I can't talk today, enough about us, and let's bring in Tom.
Tom, how are you?
Good, guys. How you doing?
Doing great. Thanks for joining us. Why don't we just start off with just a quick background?
Yeah. Well, let's see. I started as a real estate investor in 2001. Wanting to get out of a corporate trap or job, I guess, depending how you look at it. I think like a lot of people, I had a job. I was excited. It was great until it wasn't. And then everything changes. The boss changes. The colleagues change. Even the location changed and got further away from home. And I had more of a commute. And I was looking for a way out, but I couldn't find one. And then I kind of interestingly, I was so far in debt. I was looking for a way out. I had no idea what to do. So I just took a vacation, which is not a very fiscally responsible thing to do. And I went whitewater rafting in India with a bunch of my buddies. And then I flew off the raft in a difficult class 5 raft, or I guess it was difficult for me, not for everybody else. And I wound up underwater and couldn't breathe and wasn't sure when I was going to come up. And as my vision was getting narrower, I thought, oh, crap, this isn't good. And but all the fear went away. And it was oddly replaced by anger. I was just flat out angry. I hadn't done anything in life. And my solution for being, I was 113 grand in debt. I mean, 113 grand in debt, my solution was to take a vacation. So I said, I'm going to find a way out of this. I'm going to figure out a way. But I got home and nothing had changed. I was still deep in debt. Now I had no vacation time left. There was no other way out. And then out of the blue, a friend handed me a copy of Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And I read it, and fellas, I snapped. I mean, it was just, wow. That was the frustration I had when I was drowning. And now it was the first time it made sense. And there was a way out, because Rich Dad says, hey, just buy real estate. What could possibly go wrong?
So obviously that was your like aha moment. And I think the aha moment's challenging for a lot of folks to have in general. They're scared. And, sometimes you got to be at rock bottom before that kind of happens. Cause it's like, well, I can't get any further. Like, you might as well go this way. When you've worked with people in the past, I know you come across a lot of real estate investors and things like that. Is there ways that you can train or coach them to have that aha moment or like that moment? Because here's the thing, you can't have an aha moment from somebody else. And I talk about, and I've mentioned before, like, during a sales process, if you're a good salesperson, you need them to convince themselves that they need that product or they need that service, because until it kind of hits them in the head. And then as soon as they have that aha moment, they're going to be obsessed with it. And they're going to be like, I'm going all in. And that's hard. People are scared. Like, have you seen folks in the past, or is there tips or tricks in order to help people get that, have that, that light bulb go off?
I don't think so. I hate to say that, but I am more and more convinced. Look, after years of teaching people and taking over my local investors association, you meet a lot of people. I don't meet a lot of 18-year-olds. It's much more 35, 45, 55 plus, because these are people that have been kicked in the teeth by life. And they're finally fed up with the job, finally fed up with the debt, finally fed up with the lack of freedom that they have in their lives. Then they look for another solution and they come to real estate. So I'm not sure there's another way to do it other than letting life kick you in the teeth. And that's the problem for the kid. It usually hasn't happened yet, right? You're still full of enough piss and vinegar in your early 20s that you think everything's going to be great. But I think that's it. And so I don't I don't fight that. I go, hey, when you're ready, I'm here for you.
Yeah, no, that's an interesting way to look at it. And I think kids is usually what marriage and kids are probably the two biggest ones that usually like early onsetters are. And then after that, it's the gal that has the 20-year corporate job, and they're like, oh, wow, I'm 44. I've been here 20 years and I still get 4 weeks of vacation and there's no promotion left. I think those are really the two that I see. And then you got the last one towards the end where they're like, man, I'm approaching retirement age and I haven't done shit in life, and that's I think that's interesting. And you're saying whitewater rafting in India was a life-changing event, but I mean the fact that you're like, yo, I'm going to India and I'm dead broke and I'm gonna whitewater raft while I'm there, like I think that's equally as like it shows that you have the fortitude to be like, I want to control my life and I want to do things too, right? Like that's kind of what I see from the outside.
Yeah, there was the elements of loving to travel, wanting to explore the world, wanting to do all of this stuff, but then not being able to because I was plunging myself deeper and deeper in the debt. So, I mean, great. I mean, I guess I was able to do it, but financially couldn't really afford it. So how do how did I solve the problem that people usually have where they either have all the time in the world, but no money to do anything, or they finally have money, but they have no time. So I wanted to solve that problem, which I know frustrates a heck of a lot of people, but I solved it. I solved it by getting into a highly leveraged business where I could do some work, not all the work in the world, not 40 hours a week, 80 hours a week, but a little bit of work, get massive amounts of payoff from it, and then have the lifestyle to be able to do what I wanted to do.
So, okay. So, and I think most people would agree with that. And they're looking forward to doing this. 2001-ish, 2002-ish, you do your first deal, you read this book, you hit the ground running, you say, that's it, I'm going to do it. And hopefully it's super short, but I'm sure everyone's got a story. What's your first deal? Describe your first deal to everybody and let us know the success or troubles you had with it.
My first deal was a total and complete disaster. I ran out without knowing a thing other than, hey, Rich Dad says, buy cash flowing real estate. Okay, great. I did, but I was so ginned up and excited by that book. I handed it to my sister, Tracy, and she was in a similar financial situation. She lived in Manhattan at the time. I was living in DC. We're both originally from Buffalo, New York. And she went, wow, this is the solution. Like, this is going to get us out of trouble. We could do this. It's legal, it's moral, it's ethical. It's not a gun or white powder to try to figure out how to pay off that much debt. So we said, okay, what could possibly go wrong? Let's go buy a property. And we actually walked across the Brooklyn Bridge and walked into a real estate brokerage. And we wound up buying a 6-unit building in Brooklyn. We bought a 6-unit building in landlord-friendly New York City. Gosh, I could have like setting myself up for more disaster. And by the time we got this thing done, remember this is what, 2001. So there's no, they're throwing money at people, clowns like me that couldn't afford it, because I can't imagine why we melted down in 2008. But we're giving mortgages to people they shouldn't have, like me. So we had a $450,000 mortgage on a 6-unit building in Brooklyn, in a neighborhood called Bedford-Stuyvesant. And it was a rougher area because that was all we could afford, and it was good. And but nobody was paying. Not a single one of the tenants was paying a dime. My due diligence wasn't due, and it wasn't diligent. It was just like, okay. So I made this horrible financial situation worse for both me and for my sister. And then we're sitting there going, what the heck do we do with this? And now we got to get rid of this thing. And I had a hard time finding an investor to help us get rid of it, which I found a little bit shocking because I was a highly motivated, desperate seller, and yet nobody was returning calls or helping. That was a little strange. So we let it go. Eventually, we did find an investor. They took it on a short sale, so they got it for less than what we owed the bank. The bank wrote off the balance, and we moved on. Kind of a little nervous about what to do, because the last time either one of us had gone to the property, it was my sister Tracy. She went to try to collect some rent, and one of the tenants got very mouthy with her and said, "Hey, I'm sick and tired of you coming around here all the time asking for money," and then took her head and smacked it into the wall. So that was when we decided to just walk away, let the bank have it, let it be their problem.
Yeah, and just to think if you held on to that pain point, what that thing could be worth today, because that neighborhood has completely almost turned around, right?
Oh,
But
I think it's worth it. I laugh now because I hear people tell me their kids live there, and I go, oh,
yeah,
sure. And I think it's worth about 2.3 million. So yeah, there was, but look, it's been 24 years. There's easier and safer ways of making $2 million over 20 years than that.
yeah. I was gonna say, for $100,000 a year, you can figure out how to do this, right? And you
Yeah,
flush it down. You flush it down the toilet. You clear your conscience. You put your sister and yourself in, maybe a better or worse place, depending how you look at it. Listening to the story today, how do you turn it around? How do you write it? Because a lot of people end up in these situations and they just say, fuck it, we're done. I'm out. I'm gone. Real estate's the world's biggest scam. You're only making money if you're a scam artist. How'd you turn it around?
Well, I'm just hard-headed enough that I did. Well, I guess my sister must be hard-headed too. But I'm just hard-headed enough that I wasn't going to take no for an answer. There was no way else out. I said, I think I just screwed this up somewhere along the line. Well, during the time that we were wrestling with this property in my local area in DC, I found my local real estate investors association. Then I walked into this room full of people that, some were landlords successfully, unlike me. Some were rehabbers. There were these weird people called wholesalers, but I had no clue what they did. Some did commercial properties, strip malls, apartment buildings, that kind of thing. And I went, wow, this is real. It isn't just what you see on TV. It isn't just what was in the book. And so I said, well, if this actually works, and I'm seeing that it actually works, let me focus in on it and make it work for me. And so I started marketing closer to home with the simplest thing ever, bandit signs, those ugly plastic signs on the side of the road. And I wound up within about a month of posting them, I had 2 deals under contract. Now, of course, they closed in the reversed order from the way I found them. But the first one paid out, I can't forget the number because it was life-changing. It paid out $22,819.66. On something I thought I was going to rehab. Luckily, one of the other investors at the meeting wanted to buy it from me, which I didn't understand you can do that. So I wound up wholesaling it to him for almost 23 grand. That was, reality shattering in a good way. I'm like, I can finally get out of this with no gun, no white powder. I can just keep doing this and I could pay off my 113 grand in debt and finally get my freedom.
Yeah. And listen, to me, that's another aha moment that you had in this journey, because that RIA group or that now they're, meetups, RIAs, whatever, that group of other investors, was social proof of, wow, like this does work. Like I can do this. There's real people, like-minded people.
Yeah.
What do you tell a newer real estate investor that might've been in your situation on like what they should kind of focus on buying? Your first deal was a big deal, right? It was a multi-unit property. It was hundreds of thousands of dollars. It wasn't some crappy, Section 8 property in Baltimore that, you could have bought in 2001, for $20,000. And, I think most people in general, they steer towards the lower end properties because they're more affordable. Just a barrier of entry, let's just call it that. But that doesn't necessarily mean that that's a good thing. Ian and I have a friend who his first deal ever was a large multifamily building. He made $1 million on his friend. He didn't even know real estate. Like that was that. Mine and both and Ian's were both, smaller fix and flip stuff, sub $100,000 that, were affordable and achievable and we could wrap our brains around. A lot of the real estate investors you talked to in the past, is that, are they attracted to the smaller stuff? Or if they have the means and maybe even the capital, it's like, hey, like maybe you should skip this price point property because all you're doing is trading trading time for money on this. These things are going to be absolute headaches. But we also learned a lot from those to stay away from them. And then the goal obviously is to upgrade asset classes. Make your life a lot easier.
Yeah. In time, you trade the 4 greenhouses for the red apartment building.
Sure. Yep.
A hotel is an apartment building. So, but at the beginning, I understand that drive to, hey, I want to do a big deal on a big thing, but it takes time to, like you say, trade up into those. I think sometimes people, when you try to start at the top, it doesn't work out very well. You don't have the experience. That's one problem. The other problem then is when they want to start too small. They're looking too cautious on the price. I mean, an extra zero on a property doesn't really change anything. I wish people wouldn't go for that lowest common denominator or price that they're comfortable in, and instead the price point doesn't matter. It's the spread. It's what you can negotiate it down to versus what it could be worth once it's all fixed up, and play off the spread, because that's how people are making money in real estate as investors, as rehabbers, even as landlords. You want to have a spread when you buy it. So if you're in a low price area and homes are 50 grand, well, then your spread might only be $10,000 or $20,000. But if you go to a higher priced area and all the homes are 800 grand on average, but you can make $100,000 spread, that's usually better use of your time. I mean, it's the same amount of time to do a deal, whether you're making 5 grand or whether you're making 50. So I think it's a mistake to focus on the too small ones at the beginning because you feel comfortable. I'd rather see people go, look, whatever is the average in your area, do it. If you're in a lower priced area, okay, fine. If you're in a higher priced area, okay, fine.
Yeah, and also that kind of means like median housing price, give or take, right? Be in the median, because that's where a lot of the transactions you're done in the median housing price points, and I think there is more risk on the higher end stuff and the lower end stuff in those geographic areas. And unfortunately, some people live in markets. I work with a lot of private lenders all over the country, and sometimes they're in a market where their average loan's like 80 grand, and you got to churn through a lot of those. It makes it challenging compared to Northeast, Mid Atlantic, out west lenders where their average loan's 500 grand, and there's challenges with that as well. But yeah, no, that makes sense.
Yeah. So as you do this one deal, $22,816.98
$19.66.
Okay, I was close. There's a 9 to 6. You make that money. You do deal 1. You do deal 2. Presumably, they go both well. You wholesale them. Do you end up in this wholesaling route, or do you keep your eye on the prize? How quick do you pay your debt off, quit your job? Is it all roses, or what happens?
Not all roses, but I'll tell you, the second deal paid out $5 grand, so I was still happy with that. I mean, it's not as big, but look, it's $5 grand. That's what they used to pay me for a month's worth of work, and I didn't get all of the $5 grand either, because time your check showed up, you only had 3,400. So, I said, let me focus, let me get this done. And I went, this wholesaling thing is interesting. Wait a minute. I can just focus on the parts I actually like doing. I can focus on marketing. I can focus on negotiation. And I don't have to get wrapped up in the parts of the business that I'm not really personally that attracted to. I mean, it's fine for other people if they're great contractors or great carpenters or great plumbers. I'm not. And, landlords, I was already kind of burned by the 6-unit experience. So I went, why don't I just stay here for a while as a wholesaler? And paid off all the debt. It took about 6 months, but it was all gone. I mean, what a day. Ian, think about it. It was like, wow, you're writing that last check. It was magical. I mean, these days you're probably typing in online the last payment, but whatever. Back then I wrote a check, and that check came on and was like, oh, wow, I'm free. This is great. Okay. And then it's interesting, what do you do all day long? Because I had foolishly quit my job on the first deal, the 6-unit. That made no sense. It wasn't going to produce anything, but it was stupid. And then I had to go get a temp job to hold ends together and generate some money to be able to spend on marketing. And then I was able to leave that afterwards, and I never looked back. And I've been unemployed ever since, and it's good that way. So, but you talk about moving into the when do you say, oh, I need the bigger deals? I stayed as just wholesaler for over a decade. Because, right or wrong, fast money and good money like that is addictive. You can solve a lot of problems. The only real downside is it's a business. It's not really an investment. I mean, we call ourselves real estate investors as wholesalers, but we're not technically investing in anything because it's transactional. And if you stop doing the transactions, you stop making money. That's the drawback from it. The good part of it was a phenomenal lifestyle, great money, total time and freedom to travel around the world. And this is before most people were that remote. Everyone knows how to work remote these days, but in the early 2000s, it was a little more difficult. Laptops were clunky and heavy, and internet connection wasn't absolutely everywhere, and you didn't have a phone that could do it. So, but that was the lifestyle I wanted to have. So I pushed to make it happen. So, but you commented earlier too about people change over time. You change with age, you change with marriage, you change with kids. So eventually, as we got into a buy and hold phase and did take on rentals again and did take on rehabs and went for the bigger money deals, and that was fine because that fit that point in my life. I guess the number one thing I would like to see people do is look in the mirror and say, what makes the most sense for you now? What can you actually do now? And what do you really need now? Do you need fast money? Do you need big money? Do you need steady money? Then choose the appropriate kind of deal. Don't just do something because you think, well, that's what these guys do, or that's what this person. Just work it so that it makes sense for you personally.
Do you think as a wholesaler, what was like one of your superpowers? Do you think negotiation? Was that one of the most important parts?
Definitely.
Like what were some like negotiation tactics that you kind of put in place that you think gave you the edge over other people?
I've got 3 that I love to teach people because I use them in pretty much every negotiation and usually right off the bat. And I think they're fun because when you learn them, you realize, yeah, there's an art to negotiation. Yes. But much more important is the science of negotiation, because all the techniques, all these things you do are based on science, you like psychology of how people respond. So, if I said, say a number. So I don't know, Ian, say a number.
99.
99. Woo! That's a lot. Now, how do you feel about your number when I do that?
Yeah, it makes you. It's a gut check. It's an immediate gut check, and I just gave you a random number, but no context, no nothing.
Yeah, exactly. No context at all. I didn't say give me a price of a house, of a car, of a whatever. I just say a number. You said a number, and now you're gut checking your own number. So,
well, yeah, because I was gut checking my number because I was like, wait, did I miss something? Was I supposed to say 99,000? Was I supposed to say 9? Like I'm lost, right?
Yeah. But that's a hyper predictable response in people. So that technique's called the flinch. Anytime you hear a number, anytime anybody says any number whatsoever, flinch at it. Either it's physical if they can see you, or kind of use your noises like, oh, ouch, yikes, seriously. I draw a lot of air through my teeth, and because the first thought in their mind is that gut check. It's like, oh, is there something wrong? My number must not be right. And it doesn't matter what their number was. It doesn't matter if their number is right or not. You do that because you need to send that shot over their bow to say, hey, that number's not quite right, because it starts to soften them up. And we can see if we can motivate them downwards. So that's the first technique I use. The second technique I use is called bracketing, so I create a bracket around where I want to be. So Jason, I'll ask you, where's the most fair spot for 2 people to meet?
The most fair spot for 2 people to meet?
The most fair. What's the fairest place we could be?
I'm actually confused
In the
about
middle.
the question.
In the middle.
In the middle.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, sorry.
He's saying a golf course, bar.
I'm thinking.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's fair too. But yeah, if you're there and I'm here, where's the fair spot to be? In the middle.
In the middle. Got it.
Towards the middle. We gravitate towards the middle. So in bracketing, what bracketing means is I want to engineer the middle to be exactly where I need the middle to be. So I need the middle to be my target price, because if I can get this property under contract for that target price, I know I'll make money. So to do that, to create a bracket around it, we want to make that into the middle. So I'm just going to throw some random numbers out there. Let's say my target price is $450,000. At $450,000, I'll have a deal. Great. Well, if I ask them, how much are you asking for the property? And they say $500,000. What do I have to do?
You have to go down.
Oh, fellas, first I have to flinch.
You have to flinch first.
500, yeah. Right? They said a number, I got to flinch. So, 500,000, that's a lot. But they're $50,000 high, so I need to go $50,000 low, because now I bracket. So I want to be the same distance below my target price as they are above my target price. That way, I'm creating a bracket, and as we move towards the middle, naturally, we'll be where I need to be. But I'm going to modify that with one more. Like I said, my kind of first 3 techniques out of the gate. I would never offer $400,000 on that property, but I would offer $403,579. Because you're nodding, Ian. How does that number sound to you?
It'd because it makes me as a seller feel like you've actually spent time, energy, and effort putting thought into this number, and you're not just trying to negotiate me to get me in the middle. Well, why 403? Where'd you come up with that, sir?
I just like odd random numbers. I actually don't care which specific numbers you use, as long as you use a specific number. I could have said 401, 402, or whatever. Just don't make it 401 even or 402 even. 402, 378, 403, 866, whatever. As long as the number is specific, because then it does make people think exactly what you just said. Like, wow, he really knows what he's doing. He spent some real time on that. He's very technical. He's gotten this down pat. Now, come on, where did I really get the number from? I pulled it out of my rear end.
In air.
Well, it's real simple. I did my math equation, and this is where I landed at, and that's why we got this random number.
Yeah. So when you start doing that, your offers are taken exponentially more seriously, because people go through and they go, he knows what he's doing. So, but it's that simple. So you just use that. Don't make offers at an even number. Throw out something hyper unique, hyper specific, and watch what the reaction is.
Let me ask you a question on the bracketing phase. So, this is interesting. I actually don't know a ton about negotiating with sellers, but I do know a lot about negotiating with real estate investors.
Yeah,
I do that every single day. So, with the bracketing side, so let's say you're at 420, you want to be at 425, right? And they say 500. Do you then go in reverse and anchor just a lower number, a good bit lower number, where it's like, ooh, yeah, I don't know if that's going to work. Like, you know, and again, I don't know if I can even buy it at this price, but let's say I could do like 325, 335. Is that something that you could work with? Like, is that kind of how you go from their 500 to their your 300, and like there's your middle 425.
Yeah, in that case, you went a little lower. I think you said 400 at the beginning. Sorry, 425 you're after, so it'd be around 350. But you're fine either way. I want you to start with a low offer, because you have to let them bring you up to quote unquote their price.
Yeah. Exactly.
That way they feel like they won. You've always got to let the other side feel like they won. And there's a whole bunch of reasons for this. Like if you start to just agree to what they say immediately, they start to think what's wrong. If they didn't fight for their price, they start to think what's wrong. Or if they haven't started thinking about it, when they go home and talk to their spouse or talk to their kids or talk to their siblings or talk to whoever, their friends, hey, I'm selling this property. Oh, what'd you get for it? And they tell them, they said, oh, well, how much did they offer at the beginning? You said, well, that was that. I mean, they're going to feel foolish. So you have to give somebody a leg to stand on and make them feel like they won. If they fight for their price, and so you have to let them do that. So start low, start about half as low, 50% lower than they are high. If you start at the distance, you have a way to go.
Do you recommend real estate investors only negotiate in the house?
No,
in person.
No, because I'm not always in person. I deal with a lot of out-of-state sellers, so the same techniques work on the phone, and the same techniques work for any kind of deal or actually any kind of situation. But I do a lot of my negotiation on the phone, so it's very much verbal flinching, and I'm playing the same games but verbally. And I don't actually want to go see the property until they've already shown that there's some movement in their price, and then going to see the property would allow me to, pick on some. And there's always some damage on the property, right? There's always a spot on the ceiling or something, that water was leaking, something. There's a crack, and you can point these things out, and then continue the negotiation downward. And then if I'm face to face with them, I can go for the close, present the contract, that kind of thing. But by all means, I'd rather it get done on the phone first. Otherwise, you can spend your life stuck in traffic. People who aren't even remotely motivated. I want to see some degree of motivation on the phone.
So are you still wholesaling today? Is it still an active part of your business?
Yes. Yep. Okay. Still wholesale. The occasional rehab. I love having rehab. I just sometimes hate rehabbing. So I don't always love that. And then we had a number of rentals. I rehabbed those and sold them all off. They were all in the DC area. That turned out to be prophetic, I think, was a good thing that I did that. And now we're reinvesting into self-storage facilities.
Cool. Yeah. No, and the reason I ask, because my brother is actively getting into wholesaling, and it's fun to watch because, like, here's the real question. People say it all the time. Wholesaling's dead. He's in South Carolina. They got some real weird contracts. It's borderline illegal based by what the law says. So it's been interesting to listen to his conversations. What do you say to the people that say wholesaling's dead or going to be dead? Like, is this a tactic that's going to be around forever? And, you know, I know it's gotten way more virtual. Like, where is the future of wholesaling going?
Yeah, I mean, I always hear this death of whatever. I think a lot of it's clickbait to get people to click and read or watch their Instagram video. Look, it's more difficult in some states than it was before. A couple states have put out some silly anti-wholesaler laws or rules or regulations. I think that hopefully, like a lot of bad legislation and regulation, is people can see that it's blown up in their face, and it's actually hurt motivated sellers. It's hurt homeowners that are in trouble because the wholesaler's not there for them. There's usually other ways around it. You just have to use different techniques. It's still maybe effectively wholesaling, but the legal process or contract assignment can be different. You work with competent legal counsel, a competent title attorney in those areas. And we have not, like, I've got a number of addendum on different states that have some crazy things. We just deal with it. I think that there's only, maybe one or two states I'd stay out of. But even then, at the end of the day, what you learn as a wholesaler is marketing and negotiation, which the last time I checked, every single other type of investor needs to do that as well. Rehabbers, commercial, landlords, everybody needs to market and negotiate. So I like to see people focus on that core, choose whichever exit strategy makes sense and whichever ones are open to you legally at any given time, but focus on finding deals and making deals.
Yeah, that definitely makes sense. We talk about it all the time. Our business, got pretty big overnight, and we own a lot of properties, self-storage, commercial, residential rentals, but we still wholesale. We still get leads that come through. People still look at us as an authority figure. Like last year, we had a buddy of ours reach out. Hey, grandma died. My dad wants this price for the house. We said, yep, turned around, wholesaled it, made 50 grand. Like, it should be a part of your business, and I think too many people get away from it and like, oh, that's beginner skill set. But I think it's way above beginner skill set. We've had, what's his name from RE Simply on here, Sherrod, we're looking at his program, what he's done for the wholesaling space and all the different lead generation sources that are out there now. It's way different than just sending mailers, trying to smash the probate list and being the first piece of mail that gets open. It's a completely different business now. And Absolutely. It's been fun and interesting to watch.
Yeah. I find it amusing that people go, oh, it's a beginner thing. All right, well, I find it a core thing. Because again, if it's marketing negotiation, that's the core of any of the businesses. So you can call it beginners, and maybe it does happen to be good for beginners, largely because there's not a lot of downside risk. But okay, even an advanced investor, you don't need. What if it's a good deal, but it's not your kind of deal? Well, don't let it go. Put it under contract and wholesale to someone else who it is perfect for. Or what if you're a rehabber? You've already got 2 or 3 flips going at the same time. You're maxed. You can't do anymore. But then your phone rings and it's a good deal. Don't let it go. Put it under contract and assign it to somebody else. Wholesale it. There's nothing wrong with that. And gosh, fellas, the last time I checked, making $50,000 is making $50,000. I don't really care if you used a quote unquote beginner tactic or not. You made 50 grand. Go celebrate.
Yeah, well, if Uncle Donnie and cousin Elon, I guess, get some tax laws passed, that $50,000 might actually be $50,000 in your pocket. It'd be even better. Yeah, so that'd be interesting to see overall. But we're not going to make this political. Tom, this has been a really great conversation. One thing before we let everybody know where they can find you on the internet, we'd love to ask everybody I probably already know the answer, but what's one book or podcast that you think everybody should know about or listen to? We know we already heard your Rich Dad Poor Dad, which is a very common one. So I'm going to challenge you to bring up a different book or podcast.
Well, I guess I'd be foolish. What kind of marketer am I if I don't plug my own book and my own podcast? But
there you go.
How to correctly flip houses for a profit. But that's too self-serving. So let me pull a different one out. A book that I absolutely loved when I first read it, 20-something years ago, and then I do reread it every couple of years, is by an author named Robert Ringer, and it's called "To Be or Not to Be Intimidated." It's all about life in the business jungle. And I would say, I would actually call it kind of, it was the first book that kind of red pilled me for what life was actually like. And he would never have used that term. I'm not even sure that term probably existed 20 years ago. It was probably pre-Matrix. But, but that is a phenomenal book for understanding the mindset as you head into doing deals and who you're negotiating with and talking with, and that it's a jungle out there, and most of the other animals in the jungle, yeah, surprise, surprise, they're trying to eat you alive. So you've got to learn to fend for yourself. But he puts it in a lot more eloquently and detail than that. So I would recommend that to everybody.
We will definitely get that in the show notes, and I'm probably going to put that one on my list to read because I have not heard that one recommended. And every once in a while, it's good to get motivated, like you're ready to run through the wall again. So sounds like I might need that right now. Where's the best place people can find you on the internet? They want to learn more about you, or they're close to one of your RIA locations. How can they learn more about what you're doing?
Perfect. Easy spot to go is tomzeeb.com, TOM, Z as in zebra, EEB as in boy.com. And then if you put a / after that and put gifts, I've got a number of free gifts for you to download, a lot of different trainings, some on negotiation, some on marketing, some on overall structure. So that's a perfect spot. And you said locally as well, if you're looking for RIA training, we have groups in the DC area. We have them in Tampa and Sarasota, Florida, and then nationwide online. All of that's at tractionria.com. That's tractionreia.com.
Cool. We'll make sure to get all those links in the show notes if you want to go check them out. They'll be in there. And Tom, this has been an awesome episode. Good reminders about negotiating, good book suggestion. So guys, if you got any value out of this, please share the show. It's the best compliment we can give Tom, and we will catch you guys on the next one.
Thanks for tuning in to the Real Estate Reserve podcast. Do us a favor and like, comment, and share our broadcast. It helps the algorithm and helps us spread the word too. Till next time, thank you for tuning in.